Hargreaves, chance for Torquay! Chris Hargreaves, the captain! If he stays onside, Carlisle checks instead. He's looking for Benyon. Sells!
Hello, welcome to the latest Goals Eye View. I'm joined by Chris.
Good evening, everyone.
Joined by Dom.
Hello, guys. You all right?
I'm joined by Tom.
Good evening.
Before we start, this episode is brought to you by Galaxy TQ. Thank you so much for sponsoring us, lads. Make sure you get down and watch all the World Cup games, especially England down there, because it's just great to watch there. So yeah, thank you. Big shout out to them. Anyway, going into it, we've won a game. Brilliant. Chris, and you were there.
Do you want a serenade of Yellow Army to start? Is that
yeah. Well, I'll say my thoughts about this. How I reckon it's a great win. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not exactly like, oh, we've turned the corner just yet. We've got a big few games, but let's go over the game itself. Chris, what was the game like?
Yeah, I mean, it was a kind of classic game of two halves, really. The first half, we were comfortably the better side, I thought. I mean, they hit the bar from a corner, but actually we were comfortably the better side. We played some good football. We were dangerous, got around the sides, while De Silva played further forward, which made a difference kind of alongside Goodwin, because obviously it looks like there's been a bit of COVID around. So we'd lost Jarvis and McGavin, who've kind of been playing in those more advanced roles. So the system worked well with De Silva and Evans kind of buzzing about, with Donnellan and Hall a bit deeper in midfield, and we were just able to win the ball. We didn't make good use of several situations in the first half where the final ball was kind of let us down a bit, but you know, we looked dangerous and we scored a good goal. You know, Crow, credit to Dylan Crow, because he's not been great in truth, but him and Marshall were good on Saturday. Crow won the ball in midfield, then played a good ball over the top. De Silva got in down the right. I've said for years I think Elliot Justin's the best goalkeeper in the National League, but I think he did as a good turn there, because he kind of came, stopped, half came, then ended up
pondered, didn't he?
Very poor goalkeeping.
Yeah, and Goodwin tackled the ball wonderfully in, because the defender was in front of him. So I thought it was going to be another unlucky situation where it's not quite dropped, but he just it kind of took you by surprise when it kind of then spun into the corner. But and at first half at half time we were good value, but second half was hard work. I mean, they did. I mean, they hit the woodwork 4 times, but 2 were crosses. One was I thought had bounced back across and in, but it kind of bounced back in rather than back into the backwards. One kind of kissed the post on the way past. There was one was a cross, got side-footed against, kind of thudded against the base of the post. That you thought that looked in from behind the goal, but we defended brilliantly. I mean, I put in that article I wrote, Mark Ellis was just absolutely outstanding. I mean, it was like there was a magnet on the ball in the second half. Every corner, every cross was just met. He got taken out several times by some agricultural players who didn't. I mean, the referee was fine actually, but there was a few things that it got a bit out of hand towards the end, just with some kind of over physical natured stuff. But we defended well. Crow had a tough second half against Miles Weston's an excellent left winger. He was taking him on and kind of got past him several times, but he got back at him several times. And Marshall was strong until he cramped up with about 15 minutes to go, and Tomlinson came on and won a couple of really important headers. So it was just I was thinking with kind of 6 minutes of injury time began, you were thinking, if we concede a goal here, it's going to be so deflating having worked so hard. But actually towards the end, Halstead picked up a yellow card wonderfully for time wasting, which is, you see how much we see down at Plainmoor. It was quite funny, really. He got away with plenty already in truth. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think they'd probably argue a draw was a fair result on the play they had in the second half, but who cares, really?
Yeah. Sounds good. No, I saw the highlights, and it was one of those sort of typical 1-0. We talked about last week, we were like, can we get 1-0 win in the Alan Nilsys in the season? It was literally that sort of game again. Now, for me, I saw plenty of signs, but there's still that sort of vulnerability, and things did go away. But for me, it's at Oldham now. Like, the pressure's actually on Oldham. Like, next week, the pressure's more on Oldham than us. Now, it's isn't it? I always talk about how a lot of us do. It's not an unpopular opinion that it should be like League 3. It should be 3 up, 3 down, and But the fact that the bottom 2 teams from League 2 are the bottom 2 teams in the National League really shows how much of a mess you have to be to get relegated. I know Scunthorpe have had their stuff off the pitch, which is great for their point of view. They've been taken over. But
It's so much about downwards momentum, isn't it? Once you get
yeah,
into
when
it,
your club is like
we've
been
had it
through
at Torquay.
we've
When
been
you
through
have
it,
one
yeah.
bad season, it just continues. And that's happened to those
And
guys.
even with Oldham, they've had that takeover. They've had the Weaving Stave. They've got a brilliant show behind them. They've had, Sheridan come in. He didn't haven't worked out. And then, I mean, with Unsworth, it's been a disaster from the outside in.
What was good about Saturday was it was a kind of game where before the game you saw the team selection, you saw the players that were missing. We kind of got wind in the morning that Jarvis was going to be absent, and you saw the team, and you kind of thought,
we all went, me
crikey,
included.
Yeah.
a little bit.
WhatsApp chat.
More
I was like,
subs.
crikey, yeah.
Yeah, and you thought, oh crikey, but fair play to him because again, in the kind of, it was the classic, in adversity you have to be strong, and it was. Goodwin led the line really well, and it was just what started looking like. Oh, crikey, it was, to be honest, it was a really odd experience the whole game because of course it was an earlier kickoff, which I don't think helped. It was just a really odd atmosphere. The crowd wasn't great. They're never particularly vocal at Dagenham.
It probably
Even
helped
down
us,
to,
Chris, to be honest.
Oh, I
I
think
was
so.
thinking,
Yeah.
I think the 12:30
kickoff.
actually really helped us.
Yeah, and there was
It felt like a
sounds
lockdown
odd,
game almost.
but there was no music before the game, and that sounds
is
odd.
odd.
But
That
it's
is
odd.
odd.
But
Yeah.
actually, when you experience it, it's kind of that's part of the. I think Torquay have got better at as well over the last couple of years, and it was just really strange. Kind of the game just kind of, and then it just started. It was odd. I think that kind of helped
build
us.
up, don't you? Just kind of that would be weird.
I think
we
have to give credit to Gary Johnson this week, don't we? The pressure's been on. We've had the polls every week. It's start build, but when you lose a few players before the game, that's not ideal. You're facing one of the better teams in the league, aren't you? On good form. It looked like a nailed-on home banker. We hadn't scored away in months. No clean sheet for months. I think he got it right on Saturday.
Tactically, absolutely did.
Tactically, he did what I've been hoping him to do more of. He actually switched it around to work against the opposition and build against their strengths and try and
there was just a bit
do something different that would get us a result, and that helped. I think
the centre, but there was just more legs in central midfield. That was Asa Hall's best game for a while.
Yeah.
He kept going. He physically he looked strong at the end. Donnellan was good, wasteful going forward on several occasions, but
he won the ball. Highlights. Yeah,
he won the ball, and he's just got legs in there in a way that Lapsey just doesn't quite give it you there. And of course, him and Hall were a little bit deeper, especially second half. That kind of naturally you just kind of drop and drop, don't you? When you're kind of holding the lead, but
at least we had Evans and De Silva going the other way, didn't we? So if you've got Donnellan and Hall, you've got no pace in midfield, but if you've got those two who can create something on the counter, then you can just get the ball up quick and make something happen. And
Evans' best game.
So Goodwin looked good as one up top at the start of the season, didn't it? So I don't know if that suits him better than the partnership. But then Jarvis has got to come back in, so there's going to be questions on what we do going forward. So
I think it's important that we try and if we can keep De Silva till the end of the season, because that is I mean, I can only go by what I heard on radio in the highlights, but it seemed like once again a lot of the play was going through De Silva, and I mean Ellis at the back.
He's a little player as well, Tom, isn't he? He's good movement off the ball. Yeah, he's not just a one-step pony.
Yeah, I really rate him, and if you play to his strengths, he's a nightmare for defences, and especially Ellis as well. I mean, we've got him now to the new year. Hopefully, that'll be one that maybe we can make permanent. I'm not sure if we can possibly do that, but definitely I think for us, keeping Ellis and De Silva especially are going to be so important. It's very crucial. And Evans as well. I think since Evans has come back in the team, it's no surprise that we've started to be a bit more competitive, especially towards the midfield.
I think he's given us greater flexibility because we haven't got many players who can play behind the strikers or around the strikers. He's got a bit of something about him, and him coming back's been actually a big bonus. He's not provided the goal yet, but I think he's really making it was difference.
Kieran Evans' best game offensively, not just in terms of kind of his overall play, but he just looked a threat. I think at times he's looked a bit passive in kind of how he's able to influence games, but he looked lively, hit the bar with a cracking strike in the last 10 minutes.
That was a lovely move as well, because I was kind of sat watching it, and then
there were some really good patterns several times. There were some really good patterns of play that we've talked about before, just kind of that work. De Silva was good again. again, being hypercritical, he's still got to work on his delivery. There were several
Very
occasions where
consistent, isn't it?
the right pass or a better cross and things like that. And you get it with youngsters, of course you do. And he scored some good goals, and he's contributing. He's got pace, which no one likes. But yeah, he's a bit infuriated at times with just slightly better final delivery in the third.
If he just gets that sorted as his career goes on, he's got one hell of a career.
Absolutely, yeah.
I like to see that system sort of replicated a lot more, free in midfield, and just keep that kind of system in place now. I don't want to go back to 2 up top because that leaves us imbalanced. So he'll have decisions to make there, but
yeah,
at least you feel like we're getting somewhere tactically in the last few games. Before that, it was just
just nobody was open. The openness has stopped now.
Yeah.
That crazy kind of people running through us, and there were 3-on-1 that stopped in the last probably 3 games, probably. Again, we just look much more solid. It's an interesting point you make, Dom, actually, because there will be decisions to make as to what the shape looks like on Sunday.
It's a striker situation
with Jarvis back, isn't it? Yeah, because Goodwin play, but it's just how you fit that all in.
You want to start Goodwin and Jarvis, but then they're not the best partnership together because the fact we lose, as we said, the shape, the kind of solidness within the midfield. But
the only man who could come out at the moment is Wern, I'd say, because Evans and De Silva are earning their stripes. But it's whether you take out Wern and shift it around. But then you lose some of the width.
I'm happy we've got him. Trust me, I'm very happy that we've kept him for another month.
I suppose it's good that we've got the sort of issues now to look at in the team. At least now we're looking towards we've got options on the bench, or we've got options that we can bring in, and
it's nice to actually have a selection dilemma. Not
but then again,
can I remind you we had 4 subs on Saturday?
Yeah, I was just about to say, yes, that is true. We did have 4 on the bench.
That's short term.
Yeah, well, hopefully, if all the COVID, I guess the concern is I might be wrong, but I'm pretty certain in saying that those 3 that, if it was COVID, which it sounds like it was, all live in the lodge. So you would imagine that once it's in, I would imagine you do well to keep it out of there. So obviously, as long as we can have a fully functioning squad, which would, depending on the isolation rules and when they caught it and all the rest of it, hopefully they would all be back by Sunday.
We can never take anything for granted at Torquay, can we? Just when you think you found a settled team, something will happen, won't it? Or one player suddenly drops out and you're like, oh no. So we can't take anything for granted. So
I also think as well, it was pretty late by all accounts, because he was perfectly well on Thursday lunchtime. Certainly McGavin was perfectly well on Thursday, and then by Saturday he's disappeared. So yeah, I think it was pretty late. But again, tactically fair play to him, because I don't know whether Crowe would have been playing. I don't know what the plan would have been, obviously, because I think Marshall would probably have been in with Ness going back to play in League One. But again, tactically, whatever they did worked, because I think they probably had to change the plan quite late on.
It's good to hear Marshall had a good game, because let's face it, he's had plenty of
he's had a very rocky spell.
Yeah, he was better on the ball as well. Certainly in the first half, we had quite a lot of ball. They didn't press particularly, so we had quite a lot of the ball. So him and Crowe had opportunity to make a mistake, if that sound odd, but they didn't, and they were both assured they were good on the ball, which is good to see.
A lot of it is mentally with Marshall, isn't it?
We'll speak a bit more. We'll speak a bit more about it in the second half, about sort of a balance of lone players. But it's weird. I wrote off Marshall in some ways because he hadn't done basics and his discipline's pathetic, and I'm sure you all know and all that. But I've never fully wrote him off. I do feel like there's something there, and the fact that he gets to play with Mark Ellis now,
absolutely,
I wouldn't want to write him off because of a silly red card, because any young player can do that, can't they? And, I don't like to write players off that quickly.
But he has that's good. There's definitely something there. He's just very raw and rash.
I also thought it was interesting when he cramped up and had to depart that it was Tomlinson that came on. I thought that was interesting because Omar's always been the kind of the next in line and kind of the player we've used, and Tomlinson's a young lad, not played much, maybe not fancied. Tomlinson came on. Well, he didn't do anything wrong. It's the point. There were quite a lot of balls were coming in our box at that point, and he won a couple of headers. But again, as we said before with Ellis, second he came on, there were several times with him going here, now, across, and he was really talking to him and bringing him through the game.
He didn't have that. Marshall didn't have that with Omar. I'm supposed to say Omar didn't have that with Marshall.
No.
But You
the
need that
experience is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My belief
Vital.
with Omar is he just doesn't play well with other players. He drifts too
That's
easily.
quite an issue, Dom, when it's a
Yeah.
level.
It's not darts, Tom.
It just doesn't work well the rest of the defence.
that is a bit of an
Just
issue in 11 man.
just gets lost, doesn't he?
We all-
It is team sport.
Yeah. We all love Ali Omar, don't we? We all love Ali Omar,
I
but
want him to
I mean,
come
deep
good,
down-
but he doesn't.
I
look
think
like
that
I
is
think I mean, hopefully it won't be with us next season, but I do think maybe a step down out on loan into the National League South maybe may give him a bit more decent experience for him,
sadly,
because
I
I just don't see him as a
He
National
doesn't
League
read the
defender.
game. He doesn't read the
I'm
game.
sorry, Ali, I love you so much, but you just look at Ellis compared to Omar. I know Ellis is very experienced and all that, and towards the end of his career now.
But you look at Ellis when he was Omar's age, more to the point.
Yes,
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a shame because he's one of those players you desperately want to do well. You will kind of almost give him a few more allowances, but
It's just
how many chances can you give him? I mean, it's
No.
you know,
Not for me. It's not an important part of the team like centre back. You make a mistake back there, you're in trouble, and he's just an accident waiting to happen.
yeah. And what Sam alluded to, it's actually with Marshall doing okay. This sounds ridiculous, but it's actually it's important that some of our own players start playing well.
I was going to
Because obviously
speak
with
about that in the
Ness
second
and Ellis,
part. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
speak about that in the
absolutely.
second part. But I definitely think there's a plan behind it. We've asked two questions, well, a poll and a question about that kind of thing. Yeah, I'll wait till the second part. I think we're asked about it for the first part. Actually, anything to add?
Who is your man of the match, Chris?
Oh, good point.
blimey, you could have warned me. Ellis. I mean, Ellis was. With the way he performed in the second half. I mean, again, I thought Goodwin was good. De Silva was a threat. Evans was good in behind. Asa was really good in midfield. But yeah, I think. He was just so strong on everything.
You get centre back right, you can win a lot of games in any division, can't
Absolutely,
you?
yeah.
You can battle something out and you can win 1-0. It's the most important part of the team.
And like I said, he took 2 or 3 pastings in the second half. He got
Moxie
caught late,
coming back
barged.
as well.
Moxie was just, he's funny. I was musing at one point in the second half, thinking, I wonder how long he'll play for, Moxie, because what is he now, 36? I think he just had his birthday, hasn't he? Is that 37 now, maybe?
Yeah.
And I was watching, he's just a class above anything at what he does. I do have a worry when you watch him. He gets caught and kind of takes a while to get up, and I suspect it was part of the game in the second half. But you do look at him a little bit. I do think a little bit like Greavesy towards the end. You watched Greavesy play, and you thought that looks like it hurts.
Yeah.
And then Greavesy used to say, it took him till Tuesday to walk properly. And you wonder how much it hurts now, which might be the worry. He might just give it
ability-wise, he can play for me at this level. He's got many years left. He's still, as you said, a cut above. He's still League Two standard in a lot of ways, but it's whether his body will keep letting him do that.
I get the feeling he's very wary of looking after himself now, isn't he? Like he went off the other week against Derby. He's got to look after himself. He's at that age where he doesn't want to get proper injuries, big injuries, and that. But he does.
Location, I guess, is on his side at the end of the day. Like he's. Everyone be like, oh, he could play better than this. He must be thinking Christ. But like at least it's a decent location and all that. And he's still so a class above.
He's probably my player of the season so far, Moxie.
Yeah, definitely mine.
I think he's like everyone said. I think he's class. His experience is great.
If he stays fit for most of the rest of the season, because I know he's had a bit of time out. It's between
that is key.
And it depends with Ellis. If Ellis stays until the end of the season, it might get a bit tight. But Moxie deserves that. This is his time in general being here, but he deserves it. Thanks for watching the first part. We'll answer your questions in the second part.
Here's Hargreaves, chance for Torquay. Chris Hargreaves, the captain. If he stays onside, Carlisle checks instead. He's looking for Benyon. Sells.